Hello, Apollos Pedro here. You are welcome again to Apollos Pedro podcast. Today we have a very important guest in the house, and one thing that is happening in our country, for those of us that live here in Italy, is that most of the people that have foreign background, like those that were born abroad, that are living here, they rarely have that interpersonal connection or an economic base that makes life more easy for them. What I mean exactly is this: whenever a person loses his or her own apartment, they oftentimes end up on the street. They are not like every other form of Italian that we have their maybe grandfather's house to go and live or their parents' place to live. So why do I say this? It's because that you, as a foreigner living in Italy, you have to know what exactly it takes to get an apartment to live. If you're interested in buying a house, an apartment, you have to know what are those things that are involved or interested enough for you to know to be able to get an apartment. It is because of this and due to high demand from my followers that want to know or that keep writing me, Pedro, I don't have an apartment to live. What should I do? I invited a guest today, an expert and a real estate consultant that have worked in the real estate sector, in the Italian real estate in specific, for more than 10 years. And I believe that her input today will be very interesting for each and every one of us, because people want to know what should they do if they live here in Italy and how do they find a place to live for themselves and their family. It is because of that today I invited Dr. Rosella Ercolani, a woman of great valor and that has the heart of those that she works with in her heart. She has helped us, myself, my friends, and those of us that are around me to get a place to live. She has helped a lot of family that are struggling to find a place to live in buying their houses, giving a consultation, a tailor-made consultation to them, and this has been very helpful. And it is because of that I invited her today on our platform so that she can share these ideas and the inputs that are very important for those of you in the Italian society, in the Emilia-Romagna region, that want to be able to buy your first house or your second home. She will be giving us today all the information that we need. And without further ado, join me to welcome Dr. Rosella Ercolani. You're most welcome, madam.
Hi, Pedro. Hi. My pleasure.
It's a pleasure for me.
Hi, everybody.
Good. Here we are, Dr. Rosella.
You spent quite a few important words on me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It is well deserved, and for the fact that you have been able to help a lot of people in our community, I felt it is I'm sweating already. I felt it is very, very important. It is very, very important, your presence, your input, your experience, and the importance you place into your job and being able to help other people. I have seen it. I've heard about it, and I want those that are watching us to be able to know exactly that, look, there are people like you. You don't just sell a house. You try to help people.
Really, exactly.
So
I try to do my work. My work, it's not only a work. I try really to be helpful.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I don't succeed in all of the times, but we are here today, I think, to gather and give more information to be more effective.
That is very, very important. Thank you so very much for coming, because I know the information we'll be sharing today will be very, very important for those of us that follow our program and everything. And without further ado, I will ask the first question, because my followers sent me some questions that they're interested in, and one of the questions that has the highest percentage of the questions that they asked was, if I live here in Italy as a foreigner, what exactly are those things that I need to know to be able to buy a house?
Well, the things that you have to know are quite a few.
Okay.
First of all, that because several times, obviously, I have customers that come here that are foreigner.
Okay.
They can come from Africa, but they even can come from India or Asia or other places in the world. And the first thing, the very important first thing, is obviously to have a work. You have to have a work here in Italy. You have to have a permanent contract. This is the fundamental.
Okay.
And if you have obviously all your documents in order, your fiscal code, first of all, you have to have a fiscal code here in Italy. You have to have your identity card and your permesso di soggiorno, that I don't know how it is termed.
Resident permit.
That one, exactly. So you need that one, and obviously you have to have a bank account.
Okay.
It could be even a postal account,
Okay.
but you need that.
Absolutely.
And afterwards you have to be reliable for the lender, reliable eventually for the bank that has to give you this mortgage if you need a mortgage to buy the house. If you are obviously in the fantastic condition that you have already the money, you have your fiscal code, you just can provide the buying of the house.
The buying of the house.
It's not so easy.
Okay.
We'll see that it's not so easy, but obviously you can do this. If you need a mortgage, you have to have reliability, because sometimes it occurs, and it has been the story of the latest customer that I am helping. He has the attitude, I think that this is quite common, to send the money at home.
Okay.
So what I gain, I can make you this example. If I work and I earn 1,500 per month,
Okay.
I have the bank, in my bank there is the transfer from my firm to my bank account, plus 100 and 500. I have to live a little bit. I can spend 400 for my rent. I have to live. I have to do my little expenses. I have to go to do shopping. Okay. And all what is left, I send it home. So when I go to a bank and I sit down there and I ask them, can I have 100,000 euros to buy an apartment here in Parma? And they look my historical movements, they see that I don't have saved anything, never, on my account. And this is a problem, because even if it's not a great amount of money, but you have to keep that account a little bit feeded, month per month, because otherwise the bank thinks that you spend
all your money.
So you are not reliable. You are not capable, because they obviously think, how does he manage every month to pay back my loan?
Okay.
So this is the question that the bank does, and obviously you can be the biggest saver of the world and send all the money at home, at your family. I knew stories where I had customers that they even built houses in their own country. Yes, or they do business in their country. But when you come here in Italy and you want to do something, you have to be reliable on the credit part, on the financial part.
That is so unbelievable. You know, it is interesting that, I mean, this perspective, this idea, this other side of the story that most of us do not know. And, you know, living in diaspora, we work, we have responsibilities back home. So it is a sense of a duty on our part to be able to send part of our earnings to our relatives back home. But oftentimes we don't remember, or we tend to forget or underestimate it, that look, we still need to be able to build our economic or financial portfolio here where we live to be able to assess some things. So
yes, I think it is underestimated
yes,
because it is very honorable what is in the cultural background of what you are doing.
Absolutely.
In the sense of the obviously of the cultural background, and this is correct. Here in Italy, all the people after the great after the big war that went abroad to search fortune, because my parents did the same thing. They went in England. They went in England to try to find work, and they slept in any place they could find. They tried to make a little bit of fortune. This was how it was told, no? You say, where are you going? I'm trying to make fortune. Okay. They didn't build an economic empire, but obviously they managed to take up 2 daughters. They have their little house. They've managed their life. And it's not easy to start. It's not easy. Absolutely. It wasn't easy, and it's not easy.
As well. That's so true. That's so true. You know, I hope that you all listen or have understood what Rosella is saying, because this is very important, especially for us that live in the diaspora. And I don't think we have an answer, or we can tell any of you, don't send money back home wherever you live. But it will be important as well that while you are sending money back home, doing whatever project you have in your home country, do your best to also build your financial life here in the country where you live. Because at any given point in time, just like Rosella has actually said, whenever you need a mortgage to be able to buy an apartment for yourself and your family, the bank find it very, very important to know what is your history, how do you spend your money. They look at your bank statement to see the inflow in and out of your account, and it is what oftentimes they base their decision on. And that is very, very important. Another question that was actually raised, Rosella, is that if our savings habits affect our possibility to be able to access mortgage in Italy, I think in our discussion, some way, somehow, you have actually thrown light to that question already. Because in the question that was sent to me, a lot of people were interested to know how our savings habits actually affect our chances of being able to...
100%.
It's 100% important.
Yes, it's 100% important, because when you approach to the matter of buying a house, it's not only the cost of the house that you have to consider. You have to consider quite a few further costs. You have to consider the notary costs, because you have to go to the notary to make
every necessary document.
A deed, a notary deed for the buying of your house. You have to consider the taxes, property taxes that you pay in advance. When you buy the house, you pay the taxes.
In advance?
Yes, sure. You pay them in that moment when you go to the notary. So, and eventually, if the buying is provided from a real estate agent, you have even got the agent to pay
as well.
So, just for an example, to take just note, if you buy a 1,000 house, for example, you have to consider around about 10,000 euros that you have to have apart. Because that money, the bank won't give it to you. No, because when the bank finds you reliable for the mortgage, obviously the amount that she goes and gives you is based on the value of the house. not on other
Other
values.
expenses.
That is an expense. That is an extra expense. So you
It has
just
nothing to do with the mortgage that the bank is giving to you.
no. You can't put this money inside the mortgage. So if the house is 100, now this year the banks are giving round about from the 80 to the 95% of the
Cost of the
of the
building.
cost of the house, of the building, exactly. So you have even to think that you have to have this delta, this difference, and you have to have this money apart. Because sometimes I receive customers that tell me, oh, it's not a problem. I've got a nice
Salary?
exactly, monthly earnings. So I've got all the cards in Italiano si dice in regola. In Italian,
Everything is, in their opinion, they are okay.
So that you can have this mortgage, but obviously, if you don't have the other part of the money, it becomes really difficult. But really,
I hope.
because the bank, so that I complete the discussion, because the bank not only looks what you gain every month and what you have saved, but she even looks your spending habits. So, for example, and this is a quite frequent case, you are married, you have 1, 2, 3 babies. You consider that every person that doesn't gain money in your family costs to you this for the bank, obviously relation, costs to
they are
you
dependent on you.
300 euros. So if you gain 100 and 500 and you've got a wife that doesn't work and 2 babies, 3, 6, 9. From the 105 they take away the 900, and with the rest you have to deal with your rent, with your flat, because somewhere you have to live. So you have the rent and you have the normal life costs. So the bank obviously deals with these information, but not only the bank, even a landlord, if you want to go there and ask for a rent. But this is another question.
Yeah, but this is interesting to know. I'm happy that you chip it in, because like most of my, in parentheses, in bracket, most of my people, like you said earlier on, very many of us are interested in the amount that the house costs. We do not always think about the other expenses that are behind it. And we still do not know exactly how the banks carry out their calculations, because you are an insider. This is what you do on a daily basis.
Yes,
you have this technical information concerning it.
And this is for this year.
Good.
The other year it was different. Probably in 2026 it could be even more different. So
good. But imagine in a situation whereby you earn, not even say 2,000 euros monthly, but you have 2 or 3 children and a wife or a husband. You want to buy your first house. It is very, very important that you know that these are the ways with which the bank calculates what you earn, and it is based on that they evaluate if it is possible for them to give you a mortgage or not. Like Rosella said, for each member of your family, on average, the bank consider each person to at least take away 300 euros out of your monthly income. So if you have 2 kids, for instance, either your husband or your wife is not working and you earn about 2,000 euros, you do the math yourself. And that will really tell you, like you said, our earning, our spending habits and our saving habits. It is very, very important, and it's an important factor that the bank consider before giving us mortgage. So the earlier, the better it is if we learn how to save from whatever we earn. Not only do we save it, but we don't have to send everything back home if we have to say that again. At least save and let it be in your account. So now whenever you need a base to be able to have a mortgage or to access a financial loan from the bank, they will have something to look up to and be able to see the track record of your spending and saving habits. That is very, very important. And for okay,
you
please.
gave me I don't know. The thing is, even that is this, that in many cases there is the habit to just take away by cash from the bank account where you get your earnings and then go to some transfer office to send the money home. And this is a problem for the bank because the bank doesn't know where you are going to put the money. Because if the bank sees that every month or every 2 months you are sending money where? At home, and you declare that, it's not so bad just to see that all the money gets gathered up and then she doesn't have any idea where the money goes. Because if you can justify this with a bank transfer from bank to home, it's much more
clear, understandable.
Exactly, clear, understandable for a bank. But she sees only that you just get the money out.
This is so important. This is so important. Personally, I do this a lot myself. And there was a time.
Not good.
What do I know? What do I know? I don't know. That's the reason why your presence here today is very, very important for us. Because there was a time my bank was asking me, and I was kind of embarrassed, like, why do you ask me what I'm doing with my money? But I didn't know there is this other aspect of it.
Sure. It's not only a violence to your privacy, it's a request. It's a bank request. There is a
logic behind it.
Yes.
You know, like they say, from where I'm coming from, what you don't know is bigger than you. I think we have all been a victim for, and I will not say a victim, ignorance to these things. Personally, I think that is how I will call it. But at least a word is enough for the wives. Let us do the best that we can and take charge of our spending, our savings, in a way that it will open doors for us instead of closing doors for us.
Exactly.
That is what I believe is better for all of us to do. Thank you so very much, Dr. Rosella, again, for this clarification. I think it is very, very important and fundamental for all of us. Believe it. And for each and every one of you out there listening and watching us right now, please take those things into consideration. It will turn life around for you, because we want you to be able to get a home of your own and live peacefully here in this society. Good. Thank you so very much, Doctor. The other question that our followers ask is actually this. I think, in my opinion, this is even a kind of a crazy question to ask a rector, honestly. The question is...
Why?
Yeah, because the question to me is crazy to ask a rector. And I'll tell you why. The question is, do you think that buying a house is the best solution to the housing crisis facing people in Italy?
Yes, why not?
Good.
The reply is a little bit too simple. It can be one of the possibilities. Obviously, I think it's a long-term project and a long-term solution. And obviously, who is thinking to approach the staying here in Italy with buying a house is obviously an approach that means that you are going to establish here, you, your family, because just only think that a mortgage at least it's 20 years, 20, 25, 30. So it's your lifetime.
Yeah.
It's your working lifetime here. And obviously you have to consider the future of all your family and what you are thinking for the future of your kids. Obviously, because sometimes I hear people that tell that when they come to me, they tell me, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do from here to 5 years.
Yeah.
And I want to buy a house. Yes, okay, but wait a moment. Just only think of the fiscal imposition.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy a house as a first house, you pay the 2% for the property tax.
Okay.
If you sell the same house within 5 years time from the buying
moment to their 5 years,
and you don't buy another house here in Italy, the state wants the 9%.
9% of
So you will have to pay the 7% difference.
Ooh.
So you have to have very clear what you are doing. My work is this. I do this for work.
Yeah.
So all these are all questions and are all issues that come out when I speak to people. The other solution for the housing crisis, because it is find a house either to rent, either to buy. It's a problem. It's not only a problem for foreign people. It's a problem even for the national ones, for Italian.
I believe so as well.
Because it's a problem. Because even if you want to rent an apartment, you have to be reliable.
Yeah.
You have to have a permanent work, and we know it's not so easy to have at the first.
Yeah.
Because there are cultural issues. There is the problem of the communication. First of all, the language. There is a problem with the language. I meet people that are here in Italy from 10 years, 12 years. They don't know Italian. And this is a barrier. It's a cultural barrier. It's the first problem that has to be dealt with. Because even when we spoke before of the costs, the further costs of buying a house, that in the most of the situation are acknowledged. But even when you go to rent a flat, you don't have only the monthly fee.
Yeah.
You have to have a security deposit that you have to give
in advance
to the landlord. In some cases, the landlord wants that you provide an insurance for damages, or if you lose the work, for example, and you are not in the possibility to pay your monthly fee. So, or other costs, because I'm going to rent an apartment. My monthly fee is 500 per month. Okay, then I've got the utilities to pay.
Yeah.
I've got the gas. I've got the electricity, I've got the water. And sometimes I ignore that there are the condominium fees.
Absolutely.
I speak with people that, what's the condominium fee? Well, the condominium fees is all that expense that the building has to provide to be kept.
Yeah.
The cleaning. If you've got the lift, if the insurance of the building, if something goes wrong. So they are all expensive. The other one, this is the most ignored, the rubbish tax.
Yeah.
Here in Italy, it's called Tari.
Yeah.
You have to pay it.
Absolutely.
You have to pay it because otherwise you won't have the service. And if you don't pay it here in Italy, the state comes directly to get the money from your account. So you have to be clean and clear.
That is so, explaining it like this, one would have thought this should have been understandable to anyone, but it's not so. It's not so. I'm happy that you were able to explain it one after the other, because the reason why I'm saying this is that just last week here, I was discussing with someone. He was trying to convince me why he shouldn't pay for his condominium, that the landlord is the owner of the house, and it is the duty of the landlord to pay for the condominium. And I asked him a very simple question: was that part of the agreement? He himself said no. So I am not surprised that people come to you, they tend to argue that they don't want to pay for the condominium. It's very common. And why they do it, I don't know, but I think that is what we should be able to do, even on our part as a community, to kind of expand this awareness to people that, look, you don't just rent a building or an apartment. It is important that you pay for the service charge. It is called service charge in most of our countries, in English-speaking countries and the rest. So just the same way it is in our country back home, it's the same thing here in Italy. It is called condominium. You, as the tenant living in the building, you are the one that is tasked to pay that fee, not the property owner, because the property owner do not live there, do not use the light on the staircase, do not take the lift. You are the one living in the building, you are the one taking the lift, you are the one using the light on the staircase, in the garage and everything. So it is your duty to pay the condominium fees, not the landlord. Except you have a different agreement where the landlord is the one paying. But that's another discussion for another day.
It has to be written.
It has to be written and declared.
Exactly.
So that is how it is. And I hope that is clear for everybody, because I have seen a lot of people, they accumulated a lot of condominium fees, and it become a problem for them at the end of the day.
But look, even if you buy a house in a flat, in a condominium, obviously you've got these fees to pay. You've got them. And sometimes people, for a cultural mechanism, they don't want to pay them. But this is a problem, because if you put these fees in overdue, after a medium long time, but they will come to you.
Absolutely.
They can foreclose your house. So it's really a problem.
Very, very important.
And as you spoke, before you told about, you were speaking about the condominium fees. To complete this argument, this issue, I want to specificate that not only the tenants has his condominium fees, but even the owner. The owner pays for the extraordinary fees. For example, you've got a problem with the roof. That is an extraordinary problem. Who takes care of that expense? The owner, the landlord. Okay, not the tenant. The tenant has to take care of the ordinary expenses for the use of the common places. Exactly. Of the common places.
Like the staircase
that surround the apartment. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
If you have a little garden outside your building, that expense for the gardener, if you don't do directly and is in an accord with all the other tenants, obviously has to be split a little bit for each. It has to be done like that.
When we need an apartment to live, most of the time we don't take into consideration these details. We just need a place to live, and we tend to forget.
Because you need
a place immediately.
You need it.
We focus
so everything is okay.
And
you just don't get in. You just don't go deeper in the question. So it is very. How do you say it? It is a fast response to your need in that moment. Sometimes you don't even have a look, a critical look to the place.
That is true.
And this is important. Sometimes you can have mold in a house. Sometimes you can have structural problems. And obviously, it's the right for both landlord and tenant to have the situation clear for both. It has to be done on a basis of respect. The laws, there are laws obviously, but doing a legal action, trying to provide your
your rights,
it's expensive.
Absolutely.
And it is very long-term decision, a very long-term decision. So it's not good to go by that way. The real good thing to do is to make rent agreements, written rent agreements, very clear rent agreement, attention to the short-term renting agreements, because, for example, with a short term, you won't manage to apply to the residence.
Okay, that's another thing.
And this is important because if you came here in Italy and for the moment you are alone and you are a family father and your goal is to take over all your family, you have to have the residence, because otherwise how will you provide with the bare necessity of the sanitary, of what you need, or the school, for example, for your kids?
It is so important.
It is very important.
Very, very important. This is so true, because most of us live here and we have our immediate family back home in our countries, and the first thing that most of us do is that when we have an apartment, we have a place to stay, we invite our family over. So before one can actually do family reunion, they need to have a place of stay, and this is very, very important. Then based on what you have said, because you've talked about rights, you've talked about clarity, agreement, and the rules and regulations governing this, I will say, rent, and both a tenant and landlord, or the property itself. My question to you, therefore, madam, is this. What is your suggestion, or how do you, in your experience, how do you manage this complicated rent and tenant landlord relationship? Because at times it could be very, very complicated. I'll give you a very simple example. There was a young guy, a person that wanted to rent an apartment. He was actually the landlord was ready to give him the apartment and everything. But I can tell you, for like a week, they were arguing back and front. The reason of the argument was this: the guy don't want to pay for the registration of the contract, or don't want to split the registration fee of the contract in agency and the contractor. And I was like, who is supposed to register a contract? A tenant or the landlord? Or is this something that they can both do together? I actually called a friend. A friend told me that they can split it together, but I tried to explain to this my friend, and he didn't agree, because he was saying, I rented an apartment from you, you are giving me a contract, you should register the contract, not me. So how do you manage this complex relationship between landlord and tenant? I'm curious to know.
You need to be clear from the start.
Okay.
You have to start communicating the exact terms to the parts.
Okay.
We have laws that obviously we have to stick at, so we can't just do what we want. Because, for example, the legislation 50/50 is the legal one. This is what
it should be 50/50.
The civil code, il codice civile.
Okay.
So we've got laws, a great amount of articles in these laws, but this is the basement of the Italian law, the civil code.
Okay.
If you go roundabout at 1,700 roundabout number. These are all the numbers that rule the rights and i diritti e doveri.
The duties.
And the duties of tenants and landlords. So this is the base. This is the base. Then, obviously, how do you deal with this? When there is a cultural problem from both sides, it is difficult to deal with. You just have, I think, to be able to explain the base of what you are going to do. Because sometimes, look, I can tell you this with an example. I went in a house one day because the landlord continuously he was calling me because the tenant didn't keep in order and clean the house. It's a right from the landlord to have his house cleaned in order and with the correct maintenance. If you are a tenant, you have to take care of the little repairs. The little repairs are in your charge. If you have a heating system, you have to make yearly the maintenance of the heating system. And these are obviously all terms that have to be expressed
in the agreement,
accepted, and obviously spoken of. Because if I'm putting myself in the other clothes, in the other shoes. If I don't really, I think that okay, I will pay you these 500 and then I can do what I want in your house, and eventually when I want to go, I just let the house and I go away. No, I have to explain you what is a rent agreement. You have to stay there just a little bit more. If you are a landlord and you want a correct relation with your tenant, provide with a rental agreement translated.
Okay.
Make a translation. Let yourself be helped by a cultural mediator. Make it easy.
For the other
because it's not easy for ourselves that we deal with these things every day. So let apart how can it be difficult for who it's not acquainted with these questions.
That is true.
And world is world, but it's not the same world everywhere. So we have to just take note that if we want transfer what is the living the style, what is the Italian law, what is our cultural background, we have absolutely to get in touch with the other cultural background, because otherwise this gap will never succeed in bridging it. We'll never succeed in this.
That is true.
Because if I am the tenant and I expect that my landlord just thinks that I don't know, that the facet doesn't work as it should work, and I just don't care of it because he has to do it. No.
That is not how
it's your duty to do it. But I have to explain these things to you.
Before you even get into the apartment.
Exactly. Wow. And another thing that I am now connected with, a thing that you told before. When you are trying to reconnect with your family and you want to take your family here, please pay attention to a very important thing. Sometimes with the urgent just to get a house, and this obviously we are a little bit we have to consider the position, a guilty position of the landlord, but it is quite common. The landlord has to provide you with the conformity of all the technical plans of the house, because when you will go to the municipality and ask that your family can come here, they will ask you that documentation.
Yes.
And if you don't have it,
it will be difficult for them to release the...
It's impossible.
Yeah, that is true.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
And then you will have problems, because you will go to the landlord and you will say to him, you gave me an apartment that wasn't and he will tell you, you took it as you've seen it.
Yes.
Okay. And if you have to grant 6 months before going out, you will have to pay 6 months before going out.
Okay. I can't just tell my landlord to give me 6 months to go away from the house. If I'm still living there, I have to pay.
Yeah.
This is crazy. So many things I don't know, and I believe that most of you do not even know this either. But it is very, very important, and this is the reason why having somebody like Rosella is very, very important in our journey as someone in the diaspora or that have chosen this country to live. This technical aspect, believe me, even if you have been to the university, you do not know it, because it's not as if you've been... Why am I saying this? Because a lot of people believe some people behave the way they behave because they have not been to the university, they are not educated. Even if you are a professor, you can't be a professor in every aspect of life.
No.
So some information has to get to you only when you have gotten to that particular place in your life. So these information are very, very important. If you are signing a house contract, you should know what that house contract entails. What are your duties as a tenant? What are the duties of the landlord? Who is repairing what and when? Because, Rosella, I must be very honest with you, I have had situations in our community where people argue that it is the landlord that will do the service of the house heater once or twice a year. But oftentimes they keep arguing because they will tell the landlord, my heater is not working, you have to service it. And the landlord will tell them, call person to service it, but I'm not paying. It is not my duty. And at times they even stay in the house without the heater being working.
Even there, the normal and the ordinary maintenance is in duty of the tenant.
The tenant.
In medium, long-term
use.
Agreements. Because for the temporary one, no. That is in charge of the landlord. So it is not complicated, but there are rules.
Yes.
There are rules. If the heating system doesn't work, not for the maintenance, but if the heating system doesn't work, that is in charge of the landlord. Obviously, but all this is in the civil code.
It has to be written.
And has to be written, yes.
Good.
If there is an agreement through the parts that is in opposition of what is wrote down in the civil code, it can be there, but it has to be written. Because otherwise is what is wrote in the civil law that
that has to be maintained.
Exactly.
That is so interesting. That is so interesting. Thank you so very much for the explanation, because this, I believe, is very, very important, because landlord-tenant relationship could be very complicated, because most of us I don't think we read even this agreement to understand it. We look at things from our perspective, and we even have opinion of what the other person should do without going through the contracts to be very sure if that is what it is. And you said something that is very, very important as well, that most of these contracts, when possible, the landlord or the agent should endeavor to get somebody, maybe in the person's language or dialect, to explain it better to them.
I think that would be best.
I agree as well, because if you understand better what you are signing, it will make the future relationship between the tenant and the landlord, in my opinion, a little bit easier.
Sure.
And when that too will take away the job from us that are cultural mediation. So it's okay, but we want the best for everyone. Okay, that's it.
You see, there is quite a few situations where, for example, sometimes it's difficult to rent a flat.
Yes.
It's difficult for a foreign person to get through and rent a flat. But there are quite a few, not only stereotypes, but sometimes is the reality.
Yeah.
If I go and I rent a flat and eventually I'm even referred by someone who knows the landlord, but after I've got an apartment with 2 bedrooms and it comes, the landlord comes to know that in that flat there are 10 people, I know that there is a housing crisis, but it's a problem.
Yes.
Because we go against the trust.
The trust.
The landlord has reposed on us, and this is a problem. Because he has problems if there is people non-registered, not in order with the documents. He's got a great deal of problems.
Yes, that is true, because
and
he
sometimes
rented.
Landlords prefer to keep the apartments empty
instead of renting it to people that will misuse the property. This is, I think, it's a problem that has to do with our society, because it's difficult to get. We use the word housing crisis. It is very rampant. It's a situation that most of us find ourselves. And I believe that even these things, people renting an apartment that is in real sense not in order in terms of the rules and regulation or what a house should be here in Italy, people are doing that because it is actually very difficult to get a house to rent. And while I will not like to blame them or on the tenant, in part it has to do with the landlord as well. You are renting me a house that is not in order, and I can't do anything with the house at the end of the day, which is not good from both sides of the coin. But this is the situation we find ourselves, and now that at least we are telling them or advising the general public right now, this is just a suggestion. It's not as if we are telling anyone what to do or what not to do.
Absolutely. No.
So if you can, please rent an apartment that is in order, that you can actually use, that is livable, that when the municipalities demand a control on that particular apartment, you will skate through it without having any problem at all. And please try to understand the contract that you sign, because from what we have learned from Rosella today, it is not true that it is the landlord, in most cases, if not all the time, is the one to pay for the servicing of your heater when it is time to do so. But when the heater has broken down, it's no longer working. Yes, that may be the duty of the landlord, but just to service it most of the time, it's not the duty of the landlord. And most of these things are written in the contract. But because at times we really do not have the time to go through it from A to Z, because we were in a hurry, as at that time we needed a house, we needed a place to stay, we just signed and we go in, and it become complicated at the end of the day. That is what I believe is the root of this tenant-landlord relationship most of the time, because most things were not explained better from the very beginning. With that being said, there is another interesting question that was referred to us, and which I want to pose to you, madam. And in part, you have actually talked about it, in my opinion. You have referred to it in a way because you talk about rights, stereotypes, and everything. There is this knowledge or this notion, this idea flying around in our society that most people of foreign background, they experience a sort of racial discrimination when they are looking for an apartment to rent here in Italy. In your experience, have you encountered a problem like that? And if yes, how did you manage to deal with it? Because I don't want us to believe that we live in all good, everything is perfect society. There are also issues that one has to be honest and face it. Because when we talk about stereotype, there is also the belief that even though it's a stereotype, there is a little bit of truth to it. So it's always a very complicated topic to even talk about at times. But we want to be fair in our platform. We talk about what is good, we hold everybody accountable. That is what Pedro podcast is all about. We don't fake it. I have my problem, other people have their problem, but when there is a dialogue, inter-exchange between us, we can do better as a society. So please, mother, in all fairness, have you ever, is it true in your experience that some property owners wouldn't want to rent an apartment to someone simply because they are foreigners? Have you encountered it? How do you manage to deal with it?
I'll be very direct as as I am.
Okay.
Every day.
Wow.
Every day. And then I will go a little bit deeper. How do I manage? I don't manage. It's not my success in getting people to change their ideas from both parts.
Yes.
What I can do is simply to find the right people to whom present a determined situation.
Yes.
Because I think, this is my personal idea, but I think that everything can be overcome, exactly. Everything can be overcome just with a little bit of now, this is a challenging question because obviously it is an emotional situation, and when I have to deal with this, really it's not easy, because sometimes I have just to, I am in contact with the landlords that really don't want foreigners in their apartments. But not only foreigners. I have to be very straight in this. Perhaps they don't want babies, or they don't want eldest people, or they don't want animals, any kind of animals, even the red fish balloon. So, you know, it's not easy when you are dealing with a part, and in this case I'm speaking about the landlord part. He has a property. He can choose who he puts inside.
Yeah.
And if you've got, and if you are a landlord with a background of any kind, not just cultural, because what is the problem if you've got babies? Perhaps you just restored and renovated all the apartment and you won't have scratches or little biros signs on the walls, or you've put a nice brand new table and you don't want that this can get ruined. Probably. If you've got an illuminated landlord, we will provide an insurance to deal with these damages, and when the tenants will go away, we'll use that insurance to recreate all the situation. From the other part of the coin is that foreign people usually have this kind of feeling that, oh, okay, I'm a foreigner and I will never have the apartment.
Okay, they prejudge themselves.
Yes, they prejudge themselves and they start a little bit too much aggressive.
Okay.
As if I know that I will lose this battle, so I want it. And that is not the right kind of presentation. That is not the one. And obviously, these are extreme examples, but
of course, here we are speaking generally.
But sometimes I've got to deal with situations where you don't have a job. Okay. But this is not only foreigners. Yeah. These I can deal with situations where you don't have a job. Eventually, you've got a kid or two kids. Mm-hmm. Your wife or your partner doesn't work. How can a landlord now, obviously, can give you an apartment to run? You can't cope with this. When you just bridge the situation and you've got landlords that went abroad, you've got landlords that speak other languages, you've got, I call them illuminated people, but you've even got a tenant that tries to create this relation with people. That is the result. From that, you will have a relation that goes on, that goes through. Because we've all got, here in Italy, we've got the stereotype that when you go in bed, if you are a little baby and you don't comportarti.
You don't behave yourself.
You don't behave yourself well. There'll be the black big man that comes and get you. Oh God, you know this, and so all little kids go to bed with this threatening idea in their mind. So obviously, I've got a couple of friends of mine. One is from Ivory Coast and one is from Japan. It's fantastic. You just come and know other cultural system. You just come and know other visions of life, of how to behave, or traditions, and it's fantastic. But if you don't just make the step towards something and you just stay still in yours, it's difficult.
Absolutely.
What I suggest as first thing to do for a foreign person is really try to apply in the language. Because the language is the first thing to do. Because if you succeed in communicating, no misunderstanding will be underneath somewhere. It will be all straightforward, and it's much more easier.
That's true.
When you don't know, when you misunderstand, when you disguise, it's just there, the gap. It's there, the problem.
I agree with that, especially the language, because if we are able to communicate with each other, it may lead to being able to understand each other. But if we can't communicate, we can't go anywhere. No. And that is a base, actually. And this is not to say that judging everyone with stereotype or the rampant or subtle act of racism in the real estate market for those especially renting an apartment, as it happens to most foreigners, it's okay. That is not what we are saying here, but There are some things that will help us to mitigate that aspect. Rosella has said having a job is very important, but she has also said not everybody have a job, even the Italians. So it is clear that one may have a job today, tomorrow may no longer have a job. But even as a foreigner, if you can at least express yourself, articulate yourself, and we can both understand each other, it will help go a long way. Of course, I don't think we have a solution to quote unquote racism or stereotype, but like you said, which I agree 100% with, if we at least open ourselves up a little bit, make the first step to try to understand the other person's perspective, to get to know them with openness, open mind,
Sure,
it will
because
be,
when you
it will be
don't
good.
know, when you don't know, you have fear.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you have fear, you can just do two things. Or you fight, or you go away.
Yeah, that's true.
So, if you fight, you risk to become too aggressive, and sometimes in a non-war society, it can be a problem.
Absolutely.
But even just be frightened and go away could be that the opportunity is there and you can't get it
You
up.
can't get it up as well.
And
It's crazy, it's difficult being a foreigner anyway. You have two things on the
if
side.
Paul, I don't remember, where are you from?
I'm originally from Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay. Let it be that I come in Nigeria. I am frightened. Of what?
Absolutely.
I don't know the laws, first of instance.
Yeah.
I eventually ignore habits and good manners that perhaps where I live they are normal, and you need something else. For example, I know for my my Japanese friend, that I don't have to
Extend your hand to shake
no,
hand.
no, I don't. I can't
Really?
do this. No, it's not.
Not
it's
only
not
do we shake?
educated.
Really?
No, absolutely. And
Okay.
sometimes I don't have to do something relying on the fact that I think that is a good thing because in my tradition
It's a good
is
thing.
correct. No. So you have this feeling of being frightened because you don't know. If you know, if you get to know things, you pass from a frightened status to a knowledge status, and really you can be very more effective.
That's great. That should be taken into consideration, and that's a very right. Like I like the way you put it there. If you know something, you go from a frightened status to a knowledge status, and that's really, really important. Not only as a foreigner, but even in life in general.
Yes, now we watch up.
Yeah.
We started
Yes, of
real
course.
estate situation,
Of course.
but no, this is life.
This is life.
This is life.
It could be applied in every area of our life, and it could help in a long way in our stay here in Italy. Obviously, this topic today is specifically to kind of help those with foreign background that are living here. So that's the reason why we are discussing it. We are approaching this discussion, trying to give answer or idea to those with foreign background here in Italy. Of course, these ideas, this information is applicable to anyone, even if you're Italian or whoever you are.
Whatever.
It's applicable to everyone. I think that's a very good thing. I really appreciate your time and I really want to use the opportunity to thank you again for the work you are doing for us as a society, and I would like to reiterate to anyone, at least if you have been with us from the beginning to this very moment, Rosella Ercolani is a real estate consultant and has worked in this field for more than 10 years, has a very long experience under her sleeves and everything. And any day, anytime, if you live here in Italy, especially in the Emilia-Romagna region, if you need any information concerning how you can be able to get an apartment to rent, to manage your property and everything, feel free to make reference to her, to get in contact with her, and we are going to be sharing her contact and everything in this video, in our bio, and feel free to reach out to her, please, because she will be able to guide you and even mentor you, if that, whatever that means, so that you'll be able, not only will you be able to get an apartment, you will get it with peace of mind, knowing your rights and duties concerning that agreement that you have. And if you need a consultation on entering into the real estate business in Italy, she's also very ready, available to guide you. Feel free to consult with her and she will give you all the information that you need. She has done it over and over again. I have known her for quite some years now. I know the caliber of work that she do and how she's able to help people. She's not just a real estate consultant that wants to make money, quote unquote. She really wants to help people, and she has that humanitarian, should I call you humanitarian, if that's whatever that means. She has that human sympathy, and
we're not dealing with houses.
Yeah, she really wants to help other people.
People.
That's exactly what she does. Please feel free to contact her and get every information that you need. She's ready, available, and a lot of people can testify to that. And you can follow her in all of the social media platforms. You're on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. So LinkedIn and everywhere. Rosella Ercolani, who writes every of the details under this video and everything. Please feel free to get in touch with her. All the knowledge and information that you need concerning real estate in Italy, she will give it to you. I really hope that you do, because I want you and yours to be able to live in a peaceful home and go to bed at night with peace in your heart. Thank you so very much again, Rosella.
Thanks,
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for the patience.
It's a pleasure for me.
Not very good English.
No, it doesn't matter. We understand. We are all diasporans, and like you yourself have said, being able to exchange these informations in a language that will be understandable to most of us is very, very important. This is not to say that if you live in Italy, you should not learn the Italian language. It is one of the first things that you should do. But at the same time, some information still need to be communicated in a language that is comprehensible, easily comprehensible to most of us. That's the reason why we had to do this conversation in English. And you did justice to it. I think it is clear and understandable to each and every one of us. I really want to thank you again, once again. And I'm begging you, madam, we will come back again knocking at your door, because there is another important question that a lot of my followers ask, and I think will be very interesting to them, because they want to know how possible it is for them to be able to take advantage of the equity in their house to be able to acquire another house. But that's a topic for another day.
Yes, I think so, because otherwise we will stay
You
here
will stay here the whole day. So it's something very, very important. I would like to know about that as well. If you have property and if it is possible for you to transfer your equity from house A to house B, I think that will be very, very interesting. But we'll do that some other time. Okay. Thanks again, madam. I really appreciate it. It's a great pleasure. I'm not a Japanese, I'm a Nigerian. Okay. We can shake hands, we can greet ourselves in any way possible. Until next time, guys, we call it a day today, and I hope that you enjoyed this discussion. Please feel free to subscribe to our channel so that you keep updated of every great interview and discussion that we had on Pedro Podcast. Until next time, I love you all. Bye. Cheers, cheers, ciao, ciao.